What's up, Ravens fans? I saw the YouTube community poll, and you all said you weren't worried about Deshaun Watson going to the Cleveland Browns. So we're going to have a little bit of fun here. I want you to go down in the comments section right now. Let me know, who's the better quarterback? If you think it's Deshaun Watson, type DW. If you think it's Lamar Jackson, type LJ. Coming up here on Ravens Rundown, we're going to be talking about free agency and the 2022 NFL Draft. Could Julio Jones find himself a nice little comfy home in Baltimore? The Ravens have been linked to Bobby Wagner in some destination videos I've seen out there, and a player that could have potentially gone to the Ravens in round 1. Could he end up falling to them now round 2, maybe even in round 3? Julio Jones, could he be headed to the Baltimore Ravens? That's the news rumors circulating around right now. The Tennessee Titans, after trading for Falcon star receiver Julio Jones, released him after only 1 year. And for the first time in his career, he finds himself in NFL free agency. So my question out there, and the question that we've been getting literally everywhere, is should the Baltimore Ravens go out and get Julio Jones? No doubt, household name. I bet you if I asked my mother, she'd be like, oh yeah, I've heard you talk about that guy before. And in terms of the Ravens wide receiver depth chart, you're essentially looking for somebody who can replace Sammy Watkins. You have your vertical field stretcher in Marquise Hollywood Brown. You have your first-round pick from last season, Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota. Could you go out and get Julio? Could he be that third-star wide receiver for Lamar Jackson? Last season, and over the past 2 seasons, he's dealt with a lot of injuries. He's missed 14 games in 2 years. And when I go back and I think of Julio Jones, even when he was probably the best receiver in the National Football League, he always had those soft tissue injuries. And is Father Time catching up? Or all those soft tissue injuries continue to catch up to him? That may be the case. So how about this, before I give you guys my answer? You tell me, should the Ravens go out and sign Julio Jones? I want you to type Y for yes, or I want you to type N for no. The only way I'm going to type my Y for yes is if you can get him on a cheaper type of contract, very incentive-based, because if he ends up playing 14, 15 games, I think it's absolutely worth it. What I'm worried about, though, is I don't know if you're going to be able to get him for 10. If Julio Jones does decide to sign with the Baltimore Ravens, we're going to go ahead and we're going to break it down for you here. Look at this number. We're getting close to 4,000. We are inching much, much closer. And I just saw our Vikings channel the other day. They're even closer to 4,000. So if you think that you guys are better fans than them, join the flock, hit that subscribe button, and turn on those notifications. The next player that we're talking about here on Ravens Rundown is Bobby Wagner. And should the Baltimore Ravens go out and get the linebacker? He was released by Seattle, seems like 2 weeks ago at this point. They saved $16.6 million. When I think of great linebacker play, I think of the Baltimore Ravens. And I still think of Bobby Wagner still being arguably top 5 at that position. He was not let go because he can't still play football. Wagner's still one of the best to be able to do it. And the Ravens have had some interest in him, especially some pretty credible sources. When I think of top destinations for Wagner, here were my 5 that I threw out on Chat Sports. I have the Ravens on that list, the Cowboys, the Patriots, the Raiders were a team that I threw out there, the Denver Broncos. If you believe that you need a new LB, I'm trying to get rid of a few, then Bobby Wagner is definitely somebody to go out there. I mean, 170 tackles last season. He's been in the NFL for 10 seasons. 8-time Pro Bowler. This dude is an absolute mauler. If you're looking for somebody that can dominate the inside, stop the run, Wagner's going to help you do that. In 2020, he had 8 pass breakups, 7 tackles for loss, no interceptions. 2019, 159 tackles. In 2018, 138 tackles. So I know Bobby Wagner is going to bring a lot of swagger, bring a lot of toughness in a division that you got the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're going to try to run the football more with Najee Harris. Bobby Wagner would help out with that. The Cleveland Browns have Deshaun Watson and still Nick Chubb in that offensive line. You're going to need Bobby Wagner. Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, you're going to need Bobby Wagner. You can't take your foot off the pedal in this division, in this conference, because if you do, you're going to be left behind. So let's go ahead. Let's send some good energy here. I know for a fact Bobby Wagner watches the show. So if you guys could, spam Wagner down in the comments. Let's try to get over 50. Can we get 50 Wagners down in the comments? Next story coming up here on Ravens Rundown is around David Ojabo, and this one, it really truly breaks my heart. Personally, he was one of my favorite draft prospects out there, the edge rusher out of Michigan, and unfortunately, he tore his Achilles at his pro day running some drills. The reason why we're going to go ahead and bring this up here is because I looked at multiple Ravens mock drafts. I know there was a lot of people inside the Ravens room that thought this could be the pick that Baltimore ends up going with at 14 overall. You had Mike Macdonald, who coached Ojabo last season, is now the new defensive coordinator for Baltimore. Here's my thing, though, and I've kind of thrown this idea out here. Should the Ravens go ahead and take him in round 2? And I personally think if you're going to make this move, you better be pretty damn confident in some of the players that you already have at linebacker, simply because you're not going to be able to have him this season. But I also know this. Baltimore has a lot of picks in the 3rd, 4th, and later rounds. Would you potentially take some of those picks, trade up to get David Ojabo, who would have been a first-round pick, go a little bit ballsy, take him in round 2? Would you do that? I think it's interesting, and I think if there's going to be a team that would go ahead and do it, I could see the Baltimore Ravens going ahead and doing that. Last season, 35 tackles, 11 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, continues to learn the game of football. I mean, that could be the other way you take this. He's always been a great athlete at the college level. You could take this year and teach him more football. Like, he is just still a very new, raw type of player when it comes to playing football. So I'm curious. Would you draft David Ojabo in the 2nd round of the 2022 NFL Draft? If you're like, yeah, it still makes some sense. He's going to be a hell of a player still, and I hope that he still is a hell of a player despite the Achilles injury. Go ahead and type D for draft, or I want you to go ahead and type P for pass, and to make sure that you never miss anything, free agency, draft, trades, we got you covered here. If you're a big-time fan of the Baltimore Ravens, I want you to hit that subscribe button, and because it's kind of AFC noteworthy, the Atlanta Falcons have just traded away Matt Ryan to the Indianapolis Colts for a 3rd-round pick. So another team in the AFC that's getting stronger, getting better, and the more edge rushers that you have, probably the better you're going to be ended up leaving off. So real quick here, a nice little recap of what we talked about Julio Jones. Could he go to Baltimore? Personally, I would say wait, unless it's a 1-year, very incentive-heavy type of deal. Bobby Wagner has been linked to Baltimore. You could go a Bobby Wagner route, sign him in free agency, and then let somebody like David Ojabo learn underneath Wagner. Now, I get it. They're different players in terms of their overall scheme fit, but that could be an option. And if any of that stuff happens, we're going to drop a video, so hit the sub button, y'all.